All right, finally we are ready to go here. You don't understand how much technical difficulty I've had trying to make this video, so I'm hoping this one works. So real quick, as you're preparing for your lab practical tomorrow and you're thinking about those first couple questions on the review about photosynthesis and you feel stuck and lost, that's where Coach Kinsey is coming to rescue you and save the day. So real quick, let's talk about photosynthesis. So here we go, photosynthesis. Put an I there, and let's go ahead and underline that. And what we need to know is there is a formula. So what I know is that we have this stuff right here that is taken up by the roots of the plants. We also have this stuff right here, carbon dioxide, that's taken in by the leaves, right? So we'll say leaves in. And what these plants give off in the presence of sunlight is that they are going to give off the food that they make, because remember they're autotrophic, so they make their own food. That food is glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen, O2. This is what we breathe. So this is going to be stored inside the plant. We'll talk about that a little more in the next week or so. And then this stuff is released by the leaves, so we'll just say out, and we breathe that. Now, when you look at this, it looks pretty good. I know roots bring up water, leaves take in carbon dioxide, we store some glucose, and how we can see that is like if you cut open a tree and you see sap, that would be a good example. And then out from the leaves we get our oxygen. Now the problem here is this is not balanced. I've got 6 carbons here, so I need 6. I'll multiply it by that. I have 12 hydrogens here. I have 2 here, so I'm going to multiply by 6. And what that does is it gives me 18 oxygens on this side, 6 here and 12 here. Over here on this side, I've already got 6 and I've got 2, so the easiest one to change is going to be this oxygen on the end. I'm going to put that number right there, so now everything is balanced. Okay? Now, photosynthesis, like we talked about, is a 2-step process. Step 1 is what we call light dependent reaction. I don't know what else you really want me to say about this. It should be pretty self-evident. This needs light. It comes from the sun. I'll show that. I'll illustrate that. We also have the other one called light, look at me, I'm about to spell this wrong, independent reactions. And like it sounds, this does not require any sunlight. However, it should be clear by the end of this that without this light dependent reaction here, you're not going to be able to do the light independent reaction because there won't be any energy. So I'm going to kind of show that here as we move forward. So we're going to keep this in the back of our mind. I guess before I move on, let me do something real quick. I want to color code this. All right, right here, I'm going to put an orange star over water. I'm going to put an orange star over oxygen. And right here, I'm going to put a purple star over carbon dioxide and a purple star over glucose. All right, so this is our beginning. This is what we need to know about photosynthesis before I show the picture that I'm about to show. So if I can get a new page here. All right, what we know about photosynthesis is that this process is going to take place in a specific plant organelle called the chloroplast. And please remember, I am an expert artist, which is why this looks so amazing, right? Doesn't look lopsided at all, not like a bean or anything like that. Up here, we are going to have the sun, and this guy here is very important because he is giving off radiant energy. All right, so this energy is going to fuel everything that we are about to do. Now, inside the chloroplast, you have these little green leaf-like structure, excuse me, not leaf-like, pancake-like structures. Remember, I like food references here. So here are my green pancakes. Each one of these little green pancakes is what we're going to call a thylakoid. The reason why they are green is inside of them they have a green pigment called chlorophyll, which actually, as the sunlight hits this pigment, it's going to release some electrons, which is going to allow us to kind of do this first part. But what you need to know about it, the individual disc is called a thylakoid. The stack of discs is called a granum, and there are several of these grana throughout the chloroplast. Okay, the open empty space that we have over here, I'm going to write it on this side. We're going to call this the stroma. So this is your fluid-filled space of sorts. And what we're going to have happen here is we are going to start by thinking about the first of our reactants. So if I kind of come back to this real fast, I should highlight the fact that all of this, these are the reactants. This is what we have to get this thing started. And these are the products. This is what we get as a result of the end step. So, now coming back over here. This is going to begin by our roots of this plant taking up water. And we already know from our formula that there were, to complete this, right, we have H2O, and I put it, the orange star there, so this is going to serve as my orange input. And what we have is this water is going to be brought in by the roots and it is going to make its way up to the chloroplast in the leaves. And as this water comes in and the sunlight hits these thylakoids, that it's going to, take some electrons away from this chlorophyll, and as a result, it's going to start breaking this water up. And what we get from it on the back end is this plant is going to release oxygen, so O2, all right, what we breathe out. You might be wondering to yourself, what just happened to our hydrogens? Well, funny you should ask, because as a result of breaking apart this water molecule, what has actually been kind of left over in limbo here is we have some hydrogen ions, okay? And we also have a very important molecule that we need called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is going to be our energy currency. So water came in, we broke it apart, we released some hydrogen and some ATP, and we spit out some oxygen, which is what we breathe. This that you see right here, all of this is our light-dependent reaction. Why? It needed the sunlight to engage the thylakoids to break apart the water to give us oxygen. All right. Now, we have the second part of this. And in the second part, we can go back to our formula and see there is another reactant. Remember, water here is a reactant, oxygen is a product. We need our other reactant, which is carbon dioxide. Okay, it's going to enter into the plant through the leaves, and it will be trapped in this empty space, the spongy mesophyll space, and it is going to then be stored here in the stroma of the chloroplast. And what's going to happen right here is we are going to use this ATP that was made, we're going to bring it over, and we're going to have something called the Calvin cycle take place. All right, the Calvin cycle is actually going to break apart this carbon dioxide, and it's going to add to it some hydrogens and the oxygens that are in there. And when enough of this has happened, it's actually going to spit out a glucose molecule, which is our other product. So C6H12O6. Now, I know I've drawn it this way. I need you to understand this is not necessarily one linear process. All of this is happening at the same time. Both of these things occur simultaneously. So this is that point where I can kind of go back and go, okay, well, there's actually 6 carbon dioxides, and we also have, 6 waters in order to make our 6 oxygens and our glucose molecule. That's just the balanced nature of this equation. Okay, but in order to fuel the Calvin cycle, we needed some energy. How does that energy happen? We take this ATP, so it is one molecule, and attached to it in 3 different spots we have a phosphate, and in order to get the energy we need, we have to break one of these phosphates off. That breaking of the chemical bond releases energy. Calvin cycle uses it to put together this glucose molecule, and what's going to happen in the end is we are going to return back over here something called ADP, which is adenosine diphosphate. so there's only two phosphate molecules that are connected to it, but also that phosphate that we broke off before, it is going to be released back over to the grana. And the light will then hit the grana again, or the thylakoid, and that chlorophyll release some electrons. All that will start putting this back together. The process begins. We release ATP and hydrogen ions, and we go back to Calvin's cycle. Calvin's cycle brings in the carbon dioxide with the hydrogen ions that were carried over, and it spits out glucose when we've got enough of it. Okay, real quick, one final thing that I wanted to point out here, because we didn't spend too much time talking about it, is the chlorophyll right here that is green. So when you look at a plant and you see that the plant is green, as you already know, it's because the plant is actually reflecting green back to you. So when you look at this, the chlorophyll, the green chlorophyll inside this chloroplast is actually reflecting that green light back from the sun's radiant energy here, and we perceive it with our eyes as being a green plant. If you had a red plant, it would be the same thing, or a yellow, or a blue, or a purple. Okay, so what we know about that then is that the plant that's green, like say spinach, or say another green plant like our leaf discs, they don't absorb green light very well. So that's not a good solution for them in order to go through this photosynthetic process. But back to it real quick to kind of wrap this idea up. Roots bring in this. Through the light-dependent reaction, it takes this to make this. That's why I put the orange and the orange right here. And in the light-independent reaction, the leaves bring in carbon dioxide through the Calvin cycle, and that ATP made in the first part, it's going to break this up, add those hydrogen ions to it, and spit out glucose, C6H12O6. And just again, remember too that this is important for us because we give the plant some of the reactants it needs, specifically carbon dioxide, and it gives us what will later be a reactant for cellular respiration. So if we look at aerobic cellular respiration real quick, we know it is going to be 6O2, that's what we breathe in, plus C6H12O6, and that is going to yield 6H2O and 6 carbon dioxides and our energy molecule 36 ATP. All right, so if you notice here what the relationship between these things is, photosynthesis and cellular respiration, which I should probably label that, cellular respiration, specifically of the aerobic type, because we have oxygen right here, they are just the reverse of each other. So where we had sunlight as our energy source here, we get ATP on this side. Those are the two big differences between the processes. If you have any questions, please reach out. I hope this video was helpful. Study well. Good luck. I feel you are well prepared, and I look forward to seeing each and every one of you tomorrow. All right, have a great night.